South Africa has been gripped by the events that have been unfolding in the past few months coming out of the state capture inquiry. Some ministers have revealed some shocking occurrences and are deciding to resign from their posts in government. This due to their testimonies. The Zondo Commission, as it is known, currently in recess, and the last days heard from, among other people, former Minerals Resources Minister and his former advisor, Advocate Sam Muofhe. He is now joining us in the studio. Advocate Muofhe, many thanks for making time to speak to us. How does one gauge the success of the Zondo Commission?
The success of the Zondo Commission of Inquiry into the state capture can be gauged in many ways than one. But it is critical that South Africa appreciate the fact that it was precipitated by our past public protector, Advocate Tulima Donsel, just on the last days when she released a very, very last report. And it is through that report that we are today having the Zondo State Capture Commission. Personally, I think it is a very important commission. It is a cleansing commission for us South Africans. And I think by appearing before it, all those who could perhaps assist should, in fact, consider going to the Zondo Commission, because South Africa needs this commission in order to understand the ills which went on in the past, which almost brought our country to its knees.
Right. One thing that's very striking, of course, you've alluded to this, the former public prosecutor, Ms. Thuli, and much criticism came out, the fact that maybe she did not have enough time trying to finish the work that she was actually presented with in 6 months. Some argued that this wasn't enough time. Give us a sense of whether or not 2 years is enough for the Zondo Commission to unearth whatever rot there was in the presidency of President Jacob Zuma.
Well, in commissions, like in any civil matters in court, very difficult to say with certainty that the prescribed period would actually be sufficient. It depends by and large on how the commission runs itself. Sometimes the availability or non-availability of witnesses in the process, which might in one way or the other delay. But I think if everything goes according to plan, 2 years should be sufficient to get the Zondo Commission giving us a report which in a way would be able to assist us as a country to move forward, understanding the mistakes of the past.
There's been lots of debate around the notion of follow the money in order to unearth whatever actually transpired. Tell me, do you subscribe to this particular school of thought, or do you believe that this is deeper than just following the money?
I think it is deeper than follow the money, because from my perspective, really, we ought not to have had the Zondo Commission at all if all of us in the value chain did our work in the manner in which we ought to have done. So the mere fact that we are where we are today, it means all those who were or still in the value chain breached their fiduciary duties. They did not understand their professional ethics, misconducted themselves, and ultimately their oath of office, because in this value chain to where we are today, people must have taken oaths to the Constitution to say that they'll do everything to ensure that they run this country in a manner in which future generations will inherit a healthy country. So following the money is one way. Of course, you know, the Zondo Commission is not a court of law on its own, But I'm sure recommendations from the Zondo Commissions would actually give us some inkling as to whether we would be able to cleanse ourselves. But I'm pretty much happy that current president takes commissions of inquiries, reports seriously in terms of following through the recommendations. We have seen the Nugent Commission. It is still work in progress, but some of the immediate recommendations that it made to the president, he already has commenced implementing them. Because what is critical really, and most South Africans have been saying we've got commissions upon commissions, but nothing happens. But at least with the current president, there is some way forward in the sense that the recommendations of any commissions should be implemented to the fullest unless taken on review.
Let's talk about one of the biggest revelations, former Finance Minister Nene actually resigning after the revelations came through. Do you get the sense that maybe there has been a mixed bag here? Some people come to the stand, they actually, well, there's some resignations, while others come to the stand, revelations are made, and there's hardly anything yet. Or do we actually have to wait for the recommendations at the end and the president actually signs off?
Well, I would imagine that anyone who takes an oath and understands what an oath means, like the former minister Nene did, because he basically breached his oath of office. In one sense, he said he has never been to Saxon World, you know, and for the better part of his tenure, we all knew that he didn't. But boom, he came up with a bombshell. In fact, he did. And I think I personally appreciate the fact that he then understood the magnitude of taking an oath, you know, and did the honorable thing. But it is basically a subjective thing, whether people appreciate the fact that an oath means that if I deviate from it, I've got to do the most honorable thing.
But of course, this comes down to honor and ideals and virtues, because the commission per se is not binding constitutionally. So if someone is as honorable as former Minister Nene, he will do the needful. And if someone is not particularly honorable, he might as well just walk away.
Yeah, remember in the process, the commission is hearing you know, statements from all witnesses. It will make its recommendations upon conclusion, and it is then at that point where we would really look at what are the recommendations. But of course, in the process, those with consciences, if you feel that one way or the other, I am affected by this commission, and in fact, I broke the oath of office, like former Minister Nene did, on their own volition, they then step down. But if you don't, one would expect that the recommendations of flowing from this commission, the president will take them into heart. And those who the recommendations would be pointing a direction at to say one or the other, perhaps there should be some criminal investigations, civil investigations instituted against them, I'm sure the president will ensure that that gets done.
Advocate Muofhe, many thanks for making time to speak to us.